Deathstroke, number 23, Christopher Priest writing, Diogenes Neves on art. And this was very much a sort of between big moments issue for me. This was like the team training together, Deathstroke being, well, a dick, as he typically is.
This might be one of my favourite issues.
Of course
Yeah,
it is.
it was strong.
And you had all these concepts being brought up. This idea that Rosie's sword might even be from the future because it's got like material and tech on it that doesn't exist yet.
Right. Like some Legion references thrown in there.
And Ertron was the
Yeah.
Was it a material? I think it was a material. It was more of a.
It was the metal, wasn't it?
Was it the
Yeah,
metal?
well, because
Okay.
they're saying that's like an alloy, and it's
Right,
in
okay.
there. And as far as their things know, that the only time they've experienced an Erton is with didn't they say time travelers and stuff?
Yeah, it was. She
So-
said it was in the New 52's Teen Titans. She said that they went into the future, and that's really.
Which I wasn't reading by that point.
Of course, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think any of us were.
I was out. Yeah.
But so it sets up that. It sets up a lot of things. Rose is pissed at Slade, which is not new development, but she brings a lot of that up. But if I'm going to make a criticism about this issue, is that I don't think I have seen so many editor's notes in a single comic book in a long time. There's literally a page with 4 of them on it.
Yeah.
I do feel that's because by it going monthly, I think it's picked up some new readers. So they jumped on with the Defiant.
I think it's a problem as well with it being such long form storytelling.
Yeah.
That when you're referencing something from issue 5 and the Rebirth issue still,
Yeah.
in the 20s, it's like
Which you
just
kind of
a little
almost
reminder.
didn't need to do because they had that scene that reminded you in the beginning
Yeah, that first scene.
of that scene.
I agree, but maybe it's for people. I think it's more for people who came and picked up after Lazarus Contract.
Yeah.
People who saw the new status quo and thought, "Oh, maybe I'll give this a try," and jumped on.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking too. Because there's a lot of that stuff that we just since being reading it from day one with me and Connor.
Yeah, I found the ability to ignore most of these editors' notes, whereas sometimes I do find them useful.
But yes, it was nice to kind of remind you.
Because a couple of them had the opposite effect to me, where I just read the panel, not really, worrying about, if it was something that was brought up before, and then it would say issue 9. I'm like, oh, was this brought up before? Oh shit, what am I forgetting?
That's it. We do have. So one says issue 5, then the next page has just about Grant being the original Ravager. Then issue 9, issue 5 and 8, issue 14, over 2 pages.
That's 2 pages.
Yeah.
That's 2 pages.
That is a
That's
insane
2
amount.
pages next to each other.
Also, I need a not a time travel, but a flashback. That's what I was looking for. Of Grant as Ravager, because it feels like he was only Ravager for like 20 minutes. Like, no, not even that. He was out on that first one that we saw in Lazarus Contract, and that was it. So like, if he was the first Ravager and he built a name for himself, I kind of want to see that.
Yeah.
Is it just me?
No, I'm with you.
It's a
I'll be
fine
down to
idea.
seeing more.
Especially since that so much of this issue here, like both kids actually reference him, because Rose is like, oh, I took the name of him, and then Jericho's like, oh, I was never really his son. I was, he's my father, but Grant was his son, kind of thing. So they both bring.
And
it
we
up.
even saw that in the Rebirth, where Grant was the one that wasn't dealing with Deathstroke stuff even before he was Deathstroke.
Yeah.
When he told him, like, you're just here to bang mom and then go back to work, like, you know.
So what else have we got going on here? So we have Terra is basically planting seeds of doubt. She's like, I mean, not that I think Rose needed any seeds of doubt, but but she's like, Slade's just got an agenda here, right? He's yeah, sure, save people along the way. Like, if that's convenient to do, then sure, he'll do it. But he's got other
I feel
things.
like that can't be that effective because they must all know that.
Yeah, I feel like they do. Yeah,
they must all go. This is Deathstroke the Terminator. Yeah, that guy's gonna just help out people with no ulterior motive.
Yeah, but is he Terminator 1 or Terminator 2? That's important.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, I like seeing them actually work together, and like Terra bringing up some of the like coral for Power Girl to step on so they can balance, like, equalize the ship so it doesn't implode.
Oh yeah,
because of the water.
I mean, ultimately, this
That's
action
cool.
scene wasn't like the most like important thing in the world, but it was like a really fun scene because you got Power Girl being giant, trying to like hold the ship. You got Jericho doing his vision bouncing around from people to people, which leaves him vulnerable because he ends up falling into the water. And
that was
like,
a great moment. We're like, are we sure we thought this through about Jericho being the leader because he's always vulnerable.
Yeah.
So
you got Kid Flash zooming around getting the suicide belts.
Yeah. So the scene was a lot of fun, but you've got all these like character beats sort of spread throughout in between. You got Jericho mad at Adeline for pushing him into this life, and like, I want my mother back. You've grown cold and distant, and you're this evil person who's trying to like take on Deathstroke at his own game, which is probably not the best thing to be doing. And then we have this current building seeds of this Willow assassin or security for hire, and this girl with amnesia and all this stuff that's going on. So, things be happening, things being set up. I'm almost worried that month to month I'm going to have to go back and just sort of recap the last couple of issues to make sure I'm keeping track of everything that's going on.
To be
That's what editor's notes are for.
Yeah, to be fair, that's what I had to do when it was shipping twice a month. Because they were always so dense, I would kind of space on everything else. But here it's almost a little bit easier because it's gone from like spy action type stuff with Deathstroke to now they're full-blown superheroes. That's easier for me to catalog.
With the inception of the team and it being a team building book, it's not as much into just the family drama and all these tangled web of secrets. So it's actually more digestible. And
they're still reminding you that somebody killed Jericho's wife to be. Yeah. We're still not quite sure who it was.
Yeah, he keeps poking fun. That's maybe not the right phrase, but he keeps implying that Adeline may have had something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, she was Hive, and I forget, because when we did the Judas contract, you forget that how entrenched Deathstroke was to Hive. And so, and how much Adeline's been against them because of Deathstroke. So it'd kind of be like, well, I don't want my son getting involved with a Hive agent, so we're going to do this for his own good, which makes her no different than Deathstroke, because that's always been Deathstroke's MO on dealing with his sons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he goes to ridiculous lengths to control everything in their lives.
Yeah.
Like hiring actors to play a fake family, just, so Rose, like...
But yeah, we talked about the inerton, but we didn't talk about why, because it pierced his suit.
Yes.
Which it wasn't supposed to, that he basically let Rose
I like that we glossed over that the Rose stabs him during training, and he's actually bleeding to death and fall on top of her.
And like his whole speech about
fun
the
joke. Yeah. Good job on the blood.
Actually, I like that. It was as when they're leaving the mission from the boat, and Wintergreen's like, "Oh, so what are you grading them on this one?" He's like, "Slightly less worse."
Yeah.
Once I don't believe I can take every single one of them down in 60 seconds, maybe they'll get a pass. Maybe 90.
I love how Wintergreen kind of is like, well, you're a charm. Like his whole tone.
Yeah, he goes, I'll encourage them when I'm unable to kill them all within 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Maybe at 90 seconds.
Also, he talks about how he's really tempted to use this fancy sword, but if he has the sword on him, he will use it. Which is, again, cuts back to the training sequence when he's telling Rose, you used to walk around with dual katanas, but you never... you always used the blunt side, which showed the enemies you were vulnerable. What your weakness was.
His whole thing about if you've got a sword, you've got to be prepared to use it, and it's kind of the same way that he treats guns as well, isn't it? It's like, look, I've got this, I'm going to use it. You've got to be prepared for that. And he gives us that great thing. He's like, if you used one of these, Kid Flash, you'd be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
But yeah, although my question would be, why does he need it? Because he could just run around and snap everyone's neck.
Or just pull a book out of Reverse Flash and use his arms.
Because arguably a gun is almost like a crutch for people who don't have super speed, because it makes the distance.
Right.
Yeah, so Flash doesn't really need it. He could just run up and stab people.
Yeah. I think it's just that it'd be cool. I think Deathstroke just likes swords. He's like, no, these are cool. You should have one of these.
Yeah, it's intimidating. Even if you don't use it, a dude running around with a sword, like, come on.
Yeah.
Stay away from that guy.
I can see it.
So I did a quick count. Anyone like to guess how many editors notes in the issue?
Baker's dozen.
12.
13.
10.
Oh,
Damn
nice
it, that was closer.
And to be, I'll give it one credit is just the the translated from that you get in any of the issues.
Still, 9's a lot then if you discount that.
Yeah.
It is.
9 is a lot for one issue.
Yeah.
So.
Especially when it's not heavily continuity based. Like I would expect that out of a Crisis. Because it's pulling little pieces from here and there, but
it's especially weird, like how we said, like this feels less dense, it's more digestible, it's easier to follow than it was before.
Yeah, the editor's notes almost make it feel. It almost makes it feel like it is more dense because of all these editor's notes, when it's not really.
And also just like that, I don't recall there ever being this many editor's notes before.
I mean, how many of these editor's notes do we actually need though? Like, did you feel like when you got to the sword and it mentioned, this was taken from the store
in a poker game
in issue 9 or the poker game? Is like, did we need to know that here? Like, is it a big deal?
I feel unless they're referencing the poker game, you don't need it.
Yeah.
It's
for example.
Unless, again, it's one of these things where unless this is going to come up soon and they're just reminding people or like letting people know who didn't necessarily read those issues, who jumped on after Lazarus.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Still a really good issue though, I think.
Oh yeah, it was a solid issue. I can't make many complaints. But yeah, so a lot of things going on, a lot of things to pay off potentially whenever Priest is like getting to his end game, which could be a long time. I have no idea how long his run's going to be. But...
Yeah, I have no idea, but he's set up so much that I hope he leaves himself enough time to do it all justice.